Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod with Olivier Lemaignen. Today with us, he is co-founder at a stealth startup, which we can't reveal the name. We'll talk about that one today, though. Founder at HBO Coach, advisor at a bunch of companies, and serial entrepreneur. Founded a bunch of companies. Worked at Intuit, very cool companies like LegalZoom, Credit Sesame, or however you say that. I'm excited to talk with Oliver today. He's a nice guy. We had a couple of pre-conversations to that and prior to that, and we're going to talk about startups today. We're going to talk about fintech coaching, advising, marketing, and agencies, everything in between. This podcast is brought to you by podpire.com. If you want to start scale, be invited to podcasts like this one. Find sponsors to your own podcasting. Podpire is my own podcasting agencies. Podcasts are quite amazing to learn from people like Olivier and also to network with these folks that you would not normally have the chance to meet. You can also grow your net worth by a couple of zeros because you get leads, you get clients from these podcasts. Podcasting is just amazing. So podpire.com if you want to start or scale your podcast with myself. Olivier, welcome to the pod. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about HBO?
Sure. So I'm a 30-year veteran in the workforce, so I'm definitely dating myself. I've been on the agency side as well as client side, and you mentioned some of the companies, right? So anywhere from startups to Fortune 500 companies. Most of the time, I've been in a marketing function. So I went from, the basement all the way to senior director, VP, CMO. It was an interesting ride. And then in the 2014, 2015 timeframe, I realized that there was something that I just did not like about the position I was in. And so I myself hired a coach, and we worked together for about 8 months. And I realized that what had made me successful as a marketer was actually my ability to change people's lives for the better through coaching and leadership development. And so that's when I jumped the corporate gun, so to speak, in 2015 and started HBO Coach, which initially was focused primarily on coaching. One of my first clients was Evite, which was a fantastic experience because we all often hear about millennials and how entitled they are and all that stuff, but the reality is that was not my experience with Evite, and it was a very young crew, very young crowd. What they were missing was simply direction, but direction that was leveraging emotional intelligence as opposed to just telling them what to do and how to do it. And you learn by doing. You don't learn when you're just being told what to do. And so that was definitely an eye-opening moment. I worked with them for a year and a half. And it was a lot of fun because, that crowd finally felt like they were being heard and listened to, and then got actionable advice. And that's always what I focus on. It's you can pontificate all you want, but the reality is you need to help people with actions and action items and what the next step is. Take a baby step, right? Don't think about where you are today and where you think you need to be 5 years from now. That tends to be the stupidest interview question in my mind. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? That's great to have a vision, but then you need somebody to help you with the baby steps to actually get there, right? I don't remember exactly what the expression is, but a 1,000-mile journey starts with the first step. It's kind of like that. So once I went into coaching, interestingly enough, my network, and I appreciate the fact that you're saying that the network is so important. And you've been doing a great job growing yours, right? And helping other people grow theirs. I got pulled back into marketing, interestingly enough. At previous company where I worked at, for example, Intuit. I've had 3 consecutive maximum length contracts at Intuit simply because I know the culture, and what work needs to be done and how to navigate the matrix. And so that's where I'm bringing both together, because I'm tired of talking about myself. Well, that's how I'm bringing both together. Essentially, even when I'm doing marketing consulting or any kind of advisor role, I bring the coach along with it. And
I've
it's
tried that path a lot myself and always had challenges as a coach to listen to people and to have the patience, because usually in my case it's like so simple. It's just, okay, here's the action that needs to be taken, I'm gonna take it and we're done, you know.
Yep. Yeah.
um
Yep.
and yeah, I trying to show empathy there like just makes me think that, man, must other folks have it hard, you know, in their life. And I understand why most people shut down and try and then stop trying to achieve, because this life is quite hard, especially when you impose that amount of pain on yourself. In my case, that's like 15 CEO interviews per day, for example.
Yeah.
um but glad you're good at this, you know, because we had a couple of conversations and you always make me feel at ease and comfortable. I guess like high performers should have you and their tool
Thank you.
sets. You know, I view myself as an Olympic athlete and I have all these coaches. I do believe quite strongly in the concept of coaching, mostly because I am coachable. I will put my defense down. I will take the attacks. If and you can phrase stuff quite harshly in my way, I won't take it bad. You know, I'll just take notes. I'll digest it, and the next day I'll probably do it. At first, I'll resist, of course, just like all human minds.
Human nature.
But you spend time at like top companies. See Intuit here. Intuit was this gigantic company, group manager, global search marketing. Then you started your firm after that. Then you went to LegalZoom and Credit Sesame.
Yep.
Can you tell us about the lessons that you learned from working at these companies and starting at this time your own companies at the same time?
Sure. Yeah, I definitely did a lot of soul searching when I decided it was time for me to go out on my own. Here's what I realized. I was naive back in the day. And I was like, okay, if I get to CMO level, I'll be able to influence my team and encourage them to do awesome work. The reality is there's always somebody above you. And, you know, in the world of marketing, there are two sayings that I believe wholeheartedly. One was from Leo Burnett, which was 50% of your advertising works. The problem is you don't know which 50%, right? And then the other was a revelation for me when it came to thinking I was at the top of my game. I'd reached the pinnacle of marketing, right, as chief marketing officer. And yet there's still somebody above you who, because they have an opinion about the latest Super Bowl ad, thinks they're a marketer, right? And so that made me realize I can probably do more good elsewhere and really empower marketers, because marketers in general and workers in general want to do a really good job. They want to help the company be successful. The question is, are they given the tools and the knowledge to actually make that happen? And so I come in as both the tool, pun intended, and the knowledge to help companies, you know, and maybe I come in as a marketing manager, right? Maybe I come in as a fractional CMO. It really doesn't matter. What matters is, do I feel I can help a company be more successful? Can I add some rigor, some structure, some emotional intelligence, some training, some coaching, both at the C level as well as all the ranks below? And then, you know, I found that in large companies, circling back to the nature of your question, what really matters is the culture in the company, especially large companies, but it applies to small companies as well. Oftentimes, there's not enough focus on the culture, what the values of the company are. And so bringing that to life through role modeling, and this is a message to all leaders out there. Um, role modeling is exactly how you will get your teams to do what you want them to do and how you want them to do it, because you're showing the path through your actions. So that's my takeaway.
It's always the best way to influence, to do it yourself. It's my guiding principle in life, to speak less and always act more, to have a higher action to words ratio 80-20 sort of. Yet sometimes that comes against me because I say less, for example, with my wife, and I need to communicate like pretty much everything or as most accurate information so that she can make great decisions on her end and not only act without talking to anyone, like the antisocial slash autist type of personality that I have, like me. I love silence. I like speaking with folks as well, but I love silence too. And I'm like this humongous dichotomy, like love a lot of noise sometimes, lots of action, and sometimes just love perfect silence. We're complex human beings, but bring this back to you here. You've advised some companies, you've coached some others, some founders. What have you seen in terms of challenges, in terms of the founders that you work with, and how do you resolve those typically?
Sure. So I would say the biggest challenge, which really isn't, and I'm going to explain that. The biggest challenge is encountering leaders who actually are open to change. And the reason I'm saying it really isn't is because I'm in a very fortunate situation now where I get to pick my clients. And so if I find somebody who's saying, right, so you're talking about the say-do ratio, who are saying they want to change, but in reality, you realize that they really don't want to, but it sounds good to say it. Those are not the types of clients I want to work with. The types of clients that are really embracing the fact that they don't know everything, and therefore they surround themselves with people who in certain areas are complementary to them and know more than them, and they're not threatened by that. That's the perfect petri dish for growth. And if on top of that, they recognize the value of their employees. So for example, the CEO of Evite, he's like, okay, I want you to come in and be the executive coach for Evite. I said, okay, so what's the charter for the C-suite? He's like, no. C-suite, yes. Me, yes. But I want you to be a coach for the entire company because I want these folks to be more successful. Whether they decide to stay with Evite or move on, they will be better tomorrow than they were yesterday. That's what I want you to do. And that mindset of really putting employees first and recognizing that if you have happy employees plus happy customers, that equals to happy shareholders, because the output is going to be there. And I'm actually stealing that from Intuit. It's one of their success equations, which is happy employees plus happy customers equals happy shareholders. A lot of companies start with the shareholders. Oh, we need to grow revenue. Which campaign are we going to do to achieve that? How much revenue are we going to generate? All the while kind of discarding who does all the work, the employees, who does all the buying, the customers. So it's kind of flipping the equation on its head, knowing that, yes, you will find the revenue, the shareholders will be happy, your investors will be happy. But it's that mindset that matters.
Your current startup, it's in stealth mode still.
I can tell you a little bit more about it. This is a news flash just for you.
Yeah, because it says that like an industry that's treating its customer really bad. So I'd be intrigued to know like what industry you're talking about here, although I have my suspicions.
All right. So if you want to write your suspicion on a piece of paper, you can show it to the audience afterwards and see if you are right. I'm kidding. So the industry is fintech. Of course, consumers don't think of what they're dealing with on a daily basis as financial technology. They're just like, I want to pay my bills. I want to be able to buy a house. I want to refinance my car. And things get in the way of that. For example, if you have bad credit, and it may not be your fault. Maybe, you have a sister who ended up getting sick, going to the hospital. You racked up $100,000 in bills, and you don't have the income to pay it off. And certainly your credit looks really bad. Therefore, you can't buy a house, because when the loan officer looks at your credit, it's like, well, sorry, I can't give you a good interest rate. You're not going to qualify for a house, even though that's your dream. So what we do, and so the reveal is, it's called 3 digits, because in every aspect of your financial life, the 3 digits of your credit score are what determine whether you can accomplish your financial dream or not. Right? It's a barrier. And what we do is really twofold. On the one hand, it's literacy, but on the other hand, it's advocacy. And what I mean by that is, those sound like lofty words to describe nothing. So let me be a little bit more specific. The literacy is about using our deep knowledge of the credit industry and the debt industry to educate people as to what is possible. The advocacy is actually taking that knowledge and helping them along the way, holding their hand through the process. So for example, we work with lenders. They have a consumer, they want to buy their dream home for their family. They're stuck in an apartment in 2-bedroom, they have 4 kids, and it's just not tenable. They want to buy a house, but their credit history sucks, for lack of a better term. So they can't buy a house, they can't get a loan. The lender will send those folks to us. We help them with their debt issues and all that stuff. And then when the credit score has improved, their financial situation has improved, we send them back to the lender so they can buy their house. Now, you've heard probably a lot of that in the industry, right? A lot of folks call it credit repair. And they, the consumer has to pay like tens or hundreds of dollars a month. We do that for free. Because what we're solving for is, we want to see families and homes. We want to see individuals fixing their credit issues that might be lingering from their college years when they were stupid and young, but now it's having an impact on their adult life. And so that's where we come in. So that's a reveal.
And I'm going to challenge the preconceived notions here. Isn't the credit score bullshit?
Well, it could be, but it's bullshit that's being used whenever you want a loan. So it's bullshit that you need to cater to.
But how about reinventing that as a startup and reinventing this archaic algorithm from scratch?
Yeah, that's a fascinating idea. I think that it's possible. The challenge is this. All of the industries that use the credit score as an indicator of your credit worthiness and your financial health are old school. For them to change how they currently behave, it's going to take some drastic measures, because it's not just reinventing what the credit bureaus do to provide a credit score, right? And the real credit score being the FICO score. It's all about all the ancillary industries that use those scores to either build their own business, like Credit Sesame, Credit Karma. The banks are now offering you your free credit score on a monthly basis on your statement, whatever. But you have all these other industries, insurance, mortgage, credit cards, that leverage that score, however fake or real it may be, whether that algorithm is outdated or not, they still leverage that as the one starting point to make financial decisions and approval decisions. So it's a much bigger question. Yeah, could the score be BS? Absolutely. But there's so many people using the BS that in order to change that, you'd actually have to affect all of these other industries that currently leverage. So that's the challenge, which is a phenomenal challenge. you
It
know?
is. I have a lot of folks that listen to that pod that are agency owners, marketing agencies, right? Lots of them have faced growth issues and even stagnation this year.
Mhm.
What tips would you have for them to keep on growing their agencies?
Sure. And I've been facing the same thing. So part of it is the economy. It doesn't mean that your agency is not a quality agency. A lot of companies are facing layoffs, uh, constricted budgets. And so that's where, because we're downstream from the large companies or small companies that need advertising help, we feel the downstream impact of that restriction of funds and budgets. What I would say has been the most successful for me is go back to your network, go back to people you've worked with in the past, right? Because there's always this dichotomy of, do I do a bunch of cold calling and try to find new clients? Or do I reconnect with past clients who have had a great experience with the agency? And if they have an opportunity, that's a natural. However, think of them as the burgeoning of your network, if you will. Let's say that Jeff at agency XYZ has a client, and that client is connected to 2,000 more people. That client may not have the funds right now to give a project to your agency, but maybe 10 of his friends do in adjacent industries, adjacent companies. And so it's really thinking about the network in reverse. You're going to have more chance to land a new client that will augment your top line through referrals than through cold calling, because relationships are everything in the business. If somebody is willing to say, you know what, I've worked with Charles in the past at Top Leads, and I've seen the results. I have 3 friends who are struggling with growth right now. Of course, I'm going to talk to them about Charles. So that's the idea. So as Charles, let's say you're an agency, you shouldn't stop at the people you've known. It's actually asking the people you know to help you extend your network beyond that with intros. Warm intros are the best.
You have like a similar amount of recommendations on your profile on LinkedIn, so I see that you're also leveraging that. Yeah, I agree with that. Me, yes, I still have my agency. It's a cold email agency. We do cold email. Cold email historically has never been easy. It's a constant work in progress, and it's my obsession still. Like every day to wake up and look at my mailbox and seeing which campaign worked very well and which one can I launch. So one is an analysis, like, okay, what worked, how can I reproduce, and the other is creation. That's like at least 25% of my days.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's never easy, right? Like
No, but
it's
you're
super
see,
hard.
Charles, I dug a little bit into what you're doing, right? Because as a marketer, of course, I have a curious mind, or at least I should have one. You're being smart about the fact that you're actually leveraging the latest technology to help you be more efficient. So yes, in the past, I would agree with you. I mean, cold email is like when you get a letter in the mail telling you you've been pre-approved for a new credit card, right? I get 10 of those a day. Do I open them? No, I rip them up, throw them away. That's the equivalent of a bad open rate. But as you make email more relevant based on the latest technology, AI, personalization, all that stuff, that's the way to go, where you can still get blood out of a turnip because you're doing things differently. And so I appreciate that in how you're approaching it. You're smart that way.
Yeah, technology is the keyword here. Like I'm trying
Mhm.
to leverage AI as much as I can nowadays. Sometimes there's this ethical implications. I think, I'll just write at the bottom of my email that AI send this. I think I'm gonna implement that today. I
Mhm.
think it's gonna turn a bunch of people off, or maybe I can sign like Charles GPT or something.
Yeah.
Um, let's hope that it doesn't get read in French, Charles GPT. But yeah, which
You
means
want to
I
explain that
farted.
to the audience, what you just said?
Yeah, I farted. Basically, that's what it means in French. Um, yeah, I think leveraging that more. I leverage it for the pod, for the chapters that we do. I leverage it to do the YouTube shorts for every video that get more than 100 views. How
Mhm.
do you leverage technology systems and AI?
Yeah, so I'm working with a client now who's leveraging AI in video communications, which is fascinating because even if you're having a bad day, you look great on camera when you're sending a video message, right? That alone. And then, of course, the integration of Chat GPT, for example, as you're getting ready to send a video message, you can just type in a question, boom, it's on your screen. And when you send the video, you essentially have the teleprompter that reflects the question or the intent of your message. Even with 3 digits, we're engaging with AI technology because if you think about it, all businesses need to find ways to scale. If you have one person in call center, that means they can take 50 calls a day. If you're going to get 1,000 calls a day, that means in the past you had to hire more people, which then hits your bottom line. With AI, you can think of the bot as a digital assistant that actually knows a lot more than any kind of administrative assistant would know. And so you can find scale that way. And that's how we're thinking about it as well. For example, somebody has a simple question about their finances or their credit or whatever. We don't need a human to interact with them. We can educate the bot so that it gives human-like answers based on the knowledge we have and that we feed into the bot to get it ready for having conversations with consumers. And then there's no human interaction. However, there's still the opportunity for human interaction for complex problems. And I think that's important, right? If I have an 84-year-old grandma who doesn't even understand how to log into her bank account and check her score or check her balance, that grandmother is not going to get her answers from a bot. She needs human interaction. But the other 95% who are technology literate, get used to chatbots, can completely interact with that, get their answers, and boom, we're in business, right? And we can scale.
And
Sorry, long answer to your short question.
I think grandma will be on the phone with a bot and will never even realize. I mean, even if there's a disclaimer, I really see as GPT as you can evaluate its IQ, sort of. I call it IQ. There's a bunch of definitions to that, but let's say that it's a 7 or 7.5 on 10 intelligence. If I'm probably a 9.5 or 9.6, anything that's under it can be tricked, right? Just like
Right.
if I'm this smart human, I can trick a bunch of people. Now, will I do it? No, because I also have EQ, hard power. Problem
Yeah.
with GPT is that they don't really have that. They rely on us still for knowing what is good and what's not. And yeah, these versions are subjective. So do you agree with that? And don't you feel that that makes
I do.
a good part of society vulnerable to
It
these
does.
GPTs?
And that's why I think that leaders in general need to have very strict values that they choose to adhere to. And part of it is being consumer centric, trying to do good in the world, leave the world a better place than when they came. And that also includes not tricking people, and really, yes, leverage technology to fill a scaling gap, but do not dismiss the human EQ when it's needed to truly resolve customer problems. I think those
And
two are complementary. They can play with each other. It's
but
not either
oddly, I think a bot would be better than a human at resolving human problems. Why? For example, the first thing I thought is the five
Mhm.
whys. and a bot would do that instantly, wouldn't mess around. Like, what's really your problem? You
Yep.
know, sometimes I speak with my wife and I'm not even resolving the right problem. We're we're talking about something deeper there. It's not
Yeah.
that she's pissed at me for that. It's that she's pissed at me that I didn't spend enough time with her or give her enough attention, or for something that I did, like not taking care of the dogs or whatever. So it's something deeper. And I think from a customer support standpoint, you know, if I go to Namecheap and I'm like, yo guys, need this fix, and I have this dark tone to me, and it's like, do this, do that. Well, maybe the AI would dig in my history and see that it's not the first time, and it would probably ask me or fetch Charles API to know that I'm having a very bad fucking day, and that, yeah, they could show empathy, you know?
Yeah.
I think bots can do it thousands of times better
Well, I
than
think
humans.
so. Okay, so I'll put a caveat to that. I believe that bots can fake empathy.
Or Olivier. Olivier can do it
Yeah.
really, really, really good, or bots. Yeah, that's my thesis, you know?
Yeah.
Very powerful human that are very advanced EQ wise. But me, I'm not super good at that. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. So I think that bots in general do not show empathy, right? It's a question and answer scenario. However, if the programmer of the bot teaches it how to react in certain situations, and it's always the 80-20 rule. There's always 20%. You can't expect what's going to come your way. 80% tend to be the norm. You can automate that. But if you have, let's go back to the grandma example. You have a grandma on the phone who's sobbing because she's lost. She can't even ask the right questions to get the bot to answer. That's a completely different scenario. Now, it's a minority of scenarios, but it's still a different scenario from Charles going onto a website and saying, dude, my score is 580. I need to get to 650. What should I do? This is my latest statement. This is my credit report. And then the bot can definitely act on that. Completely agree. See, I got you at sobbing grandma. That always gets people.
Not me. It gets my technical brain going on again. It's like, okay, cross correlation of the voice of the grandma. Who is she? Boom. Okay, here's her city. Okay, here's her moving in the last 3 months. And here's where she might be, you know, like it's easy cross correlation. Oh, she might be in that wood, you know, because she took that path in the park and got lost, you know. That's when my so, and yeah, for, I mean, that's the technical part, so that would resolve the sobbing quite quickly. That second, the reassurance, you know, I think humans are quite good at that. Me, I'm not, because I'm not trained for emergency responses, but still think the bot could be like, okay, take a breath, relax, next thing you need to do is this, you know, and have her focus on the plan while providing emotional support, you know. But yeah, it's a hard one. I'm not sure if a bot
It
would
is
be
hard.
trained for that, especially with someone that has dementia, you know, and
Yeah.
forgets about things. Like every 15 seconds there's a hard reset happening on in that person's brain, so they're sobbing again and again and again. And it's a hysteria at some point. But yeah, it makes me think for sure. By the way, my grandma, she had Alzheimer's, so I'm familiar with the situation. Terrible, terrible, terrible disease.
Yeah.
Olivier, thank you for showing up today. Where can people find out more about you?
You can visit my website. It's hpocoach.com. And my email is pretty straightforward. It's Olivier, Olivier, at hpocoach.com.
I'm Charles Cormier, host. That was another founder at wisdompodcast.com.